Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Spirit of Liberty. We are an hour early today. Sorry about that, but a lot going on. It is a million degrees out today, and I have got a lot of mowing to do at home, at the church, and I wanted to get an early start on those things today because I'm way behind. I was gone all last week for camp and had a great time there, but the bad thing about being gone for a week is then you just have more work to do the next week when you come back. So that's okay though. I enjoy being outside and I don't mind the heat. In fact, I actually enjoy it. I enjoy summer, and it's the cold that I can't handle. But I wanted to go ahead and just do this early today, and hopefully you'll still be able to join me live. But I appreciate you doing that every week when you can, and hope you get a blessing today. Hope this will be a help to you. I want to, again, these programs, if you're new to them, we are gearing them towards men and things that I feel that men need to hear about. And hopefully these things are encouraging to you. But work ethic, that is something that we hear that term used a lot. And it is something that definitely is lacking today. And if I may, just to kind of set this up before we go to some scriptures and talk about some things, just talk about reality in my experience. And I'm pretty sure, most people are going to agree with what I'm about to say. But the typical work ethic of a man today is absolutely ridiculous. And then not only do men just not work very hard, but they have great expectations. And I'm probably going to read some articles to you that I was reading yesterday that really just kind of blew my mind and was just a reminder of where we are at in this country when it comes to the work ethic. Because people's expectations are so high, and yet they do so little. And some of the things I was reading, it said that they think a lot of the reason for this, and one thing that really hurt it, was just, the lockdown and all the stimulus checks, all these people getting unemployment for doing nothing. I mean, we already were raising up a generation that expected something for nothing, that's been hearing about socialism and communism and just free money for everybody. And then they got it for, a couple of years. They're pretty much getting paid to do nothing, just making the American worker more worthless than they have ever been. And folks, this is not good. And so what's interesting about some of these articles is, and it's just a reminder too of just lost people, left-wingers. They have no ability to just see things for what they really are. But in these articles, what they often do, and what the world often does, is they will take truths. They will take problems that are real problems that are out there, but their solution is always wrong. And that's one of the things that amazes me about the liberals. They're so good at identifying problems, they just never have any solutions. And the solutions are in the Bible. And the thing is, whenever you start talking about Bible solutions, they absolutely throw a fit. So we're going to kind of look at some of the things that they brought up. This one article, it's about the American work ethic and how it glorifies the hustle and disregards personal well-being. Now, I will agree that there's a lot of truth to that, where a lot of Americans today, they are, our culture, it kind of prides itself on busyness and working hard, and there's a lot of push out there. I've worked factory jobs before where they are always trying to figure out what they can do to just squeeze a little more out of you, just get a little more production from you. And they just push and push and push to the breaking point. There's no doubt that kind of thing happens some places, and they take advantage. But I want to read some of this too, just to acknowledge some of the things that are factual, but show that they don't have any solutions. So it says in here, work, fulfilling the dream, the promise of a better life on Liberty's shores. Every day, millions of Americans wake up and go to work. Simultaneously, millions more college students drag themselves out of bed and go to class after spending countless hours in the library the night before. Work is lauded in America as being a bastion of manhood and the only way to seek fulfillment and happiness in everyday life. Hustle, grind, and I can sleep when I die are some of the favorite colloquialisms of Americans everywhere. It seems we're all on a passionate search for meaning through our work, whether that be at a corporate office on Wall Street or the floor of Newman Library here in Blacksburg. The culture of America points us ever towards self-destruction in pursuit of a seemingly vain goal. While the answer stares us in the face, Americans need better work-life balance. Now, I will say there's a lot of truth in what they brought up in this article. Hang on a second, I just lost it. And, so for example, there is a big push. I mean, people are busy, but part of that is the fact that in our country, we're big on competition too. And I personally believe that competition is a good thing. I personally believe that capitalism is a good thing. I do not think that a person who is lazy, pathetic, and stupid should have somebody who's hardworking, diligent, and smart. That doesn't make sense. That's not right. There are a lot of worthless people out there who should be hungry because they're not doing anything. And we'll get the Bible in a little bit to back that up. But at the same time, we do see that there is a kind of spirit of competition in this country. And notice, and one of the things they said, it says the seemingly vain goal. Now, this is also something where they're right. Because here's the thing about our country now. We are living in a very prosperous time. We are living in a time where we have technology, we have conveniences that are not even regarded anymore. I mean, in America today, you can be poor and obese at the same time. That is unheard of throughout history. Being heavy used to be a sign that you were wealthy because you had more than you need. We can be considered poor today while having air conditioning, while having vehicles, while having internet, while having cell phones, while having things that only rich people used to have are just considered necessities for everyone today. And so the thing is, because we have all this technology and all these advancements, and there's so many opportunities out there, to have great things and bigger houses and nicer cars and fancier gadgets, if you're going to keep up with all that stuff, then you know what? You're going to have to be competitive. You're going to have to be competitive. But let's just face it, in America today, if you're starving, it's because you've chosen to starve. Now, obviously, there's kids that are just being neglected. But folks, if you're hungry today, it's because you're choosing to be hungry. It's because you're being stupid. That's just how it is in our country today. There are places hiring all over the place, and people just don't want the job because that job is not going to help them keep up with the Smiths and Joneses, who are smart, who do work hard, who are diligent, and are competitive. And listen, the more we advance in this country, the more things that are going to be out there. I mean, one of these days we're going to have flying cars. And you know what? If you are going to be able to keep up with the Smiths and Joneses and get a flying car, you're going to have to be really competitive too. It's not just going to get handed to you. And the fact that we think that all these modern conveniences need to be handed to us, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, again, if you want to pursue the big houses, if you want to pursue the possessions, the vacations, all those things, that's fine. You can do that, but those are vain. Those things are vanity. And so in these articles, when they are talking about just all the stress and when they're talking about all these problems with America, what they don't understand is the things that we're pursuing are not like people have been pursuing throughout time and maybe in other countries, and that is survival. Survival is really easy in this country. I know they want you to think that, we're all just shooting at each other every day, but it's not like that in most places. We're very safe. We're very prosperous. We have a lot of good things going for us, but there are a lot of people who get caught up in the competition, who are falling for all the advertisements, and so they are stressing themselves out trying to pursue all these vain things, where if they would just learn having food and raiment therewith to be content, then folks, the opportunity for that is right here in America. Because the truth is, if you are just content with food and raiment, you can be very lazy in this country. You can have all the vacation time you want. So again, keep that in mind. The things people are pursuing today it's vanity. Where there was a time when people had to work hard pursuing survival. And that's not where we're at today. So it goes on, this article. It says, scour YouTube and books and you'll see how many gurus argue that work-life balance is rubbish, including billionaires like Jack Ma, who recently endorsed the 996 workday. That's where a person works from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, working 12 hours a day, and harkens back to the draconian era of the Industrial Revolution. Sadly, Ma has not been the only person to embrace this style of overworking. For many people working today, they see the grind as an inevitable part of success. They believe that to succeed, we must all sacrifice our health and mental well-being to become a part of those we see as successful. And yes, if you are going to be competitive, if you're going to keep up with the Smiths and Joneses, if you're going to keep up with the status quo and have what everybody else is having out there, then you're going to have to work really hard. But you know what? For survival, you're not going to have to. For the things that should actually give you contentment and bring happiness, you're not going to have to. And the thing is, all this pressure that's on people that they're talking about, it's being put there by advertisers, by people that are trying to use us, that are trying to get our money, that are trying to, get our services so they can make money off of us and be profitable. And so there's always going to be competition. It's not a bad thing. I personally think that, my mental health and well-being is more important than electric cars and whatever people are fighting so hard to get today. You hear a lot of people talking about electric cars and Teslas. Okay. I guess if I wanted to pursue one of those, I could, but I would rather have more time with my family. I would rather be able to relax a little more and not have to work as many hours. And let me tell you something, the Elon Musks of the world and the Donald Trumps and all that, they probably did the 996 type thing, and that's how they got to where they're at. And that's what they wanted. That's what they pursued. That's what they went for. I personally think a lot of that stuff is vanity and vexation of spirit. And so I'm not going to go for that. But you know what? Stop getting mad at people who are pursuing that, are doing all those things, getting all these things, and you don't have to pursue those things, but that's what it's going to take to get it. And so it says, perhaps it's time that the American workers drop the grind mindset and no longer sacrifice their well-being to meet others' vain and often unobtainable measures of success. And I do agree with that. There's some people we're not going to compete with. There's some people that are very gifted, very smart people, and they might have got where they're at easy. But at the same time, too, some people get there by working hard, just by that. But either way, they chose to make those sacrifices. You don't have to do that. Nobody's making you do this. So it says, in light of increasing suicide rates and declining mental health, many people have advocated for shorter work weeks. For example, in Germany, metal workers recently won the right to a 28-hour work week, 12 less hours per month than workers in the United States. Critics of these plans may detract from this, saying the productivity would decline and the economy would be harmed as a result. And and that's true. But so the thing is, we could do that as a nation, but then we're not going to be as competitive as a nation anymore. And I'm not going to take time to read the rest of this thing, but again, they say all these true things, but then their solution is, in America, we've got to go to a shorter work week. Well, you know what? Why don't you do a shorter work week and stop trying to keep up with the Smiths and Joneses? See, these people's solution is, we got to find a way to have a shorter work week and help everyone keep up with the Smiths and Joneses. No, Smiths and Joneses worked hard. They work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. If they should have more than the rest of us. You want to work 28 hours a week? That's fine, but don't expect to drive a Tesla. Don't expect to, have the name brand clothes. Don't expect to, just have what everyone else has. You're going to have to be competitive. And there's always been things that, it was a sign of a successful person to get them, but eventually they kind of become mainstream, like cell phones. Okay? It used to be rich people had the car phones and the cell phones and all that kind of stuff. Now everybody has them. And so you know what? What is it now? They've come up with new things and new gadgets they're trying to sell you. You don't have to keep up with all that stuff. And if it's creating you stress and it's affecting your mental health and your well-being, then just quit pursuing it. But you know what? Maybe other people, they enjoy it. Maybe other people, they thrive on, working hard and being busy. Either way, it's your choice, but I'm tired of people having this attitude that I should just get what I want and not have to compete for it. That's not the way things work. And that's not the way it's supposed to be, and that will never work. And especially, when you consider how lazy our society is. And so pretty much all these articles I was reading about it, they were comparing us to all these other countries that have shorter work weeks and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many things they don't factor in. Okay, one of the reasons too you're going to have to probably work a little harder in America is because in America we're really dumb as a country. A lot of the jobs that require more brains are being taken over by foreigners that come over to this country. And now, how are all these foreigners getting these jobs? You know why? Because they're smarter than us. Because they work harder than us. They have a better work ethic. And I'm telling you right now, I would, obviously we need to follow the laws when hiring people and stuff. But let me tell you, I've worked with a lot of, Mexican immigrants and people with green cards. And I would hire those people in a heartbeat over a lot of white American citizens that I know that are just absolutely worthless. No work ethic at all. And that is not good, but that is a sign of the times that we live in. And we need to understand that first off, God made man to work, okay? And a lot of people just have this attitude. We should just be able to sit around, be lazy, relax, enjoy ourselves. But you know what? People think that work is the curse, and it's not. Work was before the curse. Genesis 2:7, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils a breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, a tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the Lord God took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and keep it. So understand, first thing God did is he gave him a job to do. That was verse 15 I skipped to. He gave him a job. Man needs something to do. Man needs work. And you know what? Man needs to be challenged. Man needs to exert, some physical energy and things like that. I mean, even God worked in Genesis 2. It says on the seventh day, God ended his work, which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had made. So, even God worked. And you know what? A lot of people today, they are just expecting something for nothing. And not only are they expecting something for nothing, but they are expecting everything for nothing. And people they've got this attitude of, we need to raise minimum wage, which is just stupid and doesn't make sense economically and hurts people making minimum wage the most because everything goes up, which affects people on the bottom the most. But at the same time, why do you think you are entitled to more than food, shelter, and raiment? And what even makes you think you're entitled to food, shelter, and raiment? Okay, and don't get me wrong. Okay, you're not entitled to those things. But I'm just saying that the things that people are begging for, crying for, complaining about, it's more than those things. And it just shows our society and, the millennial type Zoomers that are out there. it is astounding what these people expect for themselves. They do expect jobs to just be handed to them, no matter how worthless they were in school, no matter how little they know. They expect to be able to show up late for work, to work short hours, have as many vacations as they want. That was another thing in some of the articles too. They were comparing the amount of vacation other countries get to our country. Well, again, you know what? If your goal is to just get as many vacations as possible, then get smarter and go get a job somewhere that gives more vacations. Why do you always got to kind of look to the government to regulate everything and to force everything? Why don't you start a business where you can give yourself all the vacations that you want? You know, because that requires being responsible. And you just want to be able to walk in somewhere, punch a card, hardly do anything, and then have all your dreams come true financially, have everything you ever wanted with no stress. And that's not life. And we have a generation too that they have a sense of entitlement. They're like that prodigal son, give me the portion of goods that fall to me. So they can just go waste it with riotous living. They're a waster, which is what a prodigal is. You've got a generation that does not know how to handle competition. And think about all these articles that are out there talking about the competition and all the stress and mental anxiety it's calling people. Isn't it interesting that the generations that's saying that is the generation that played ball where they didn't keep score? The generation where everyone got a trophy just for participating. Folks, that was one of the dumbest things our country ever could have done, was giving out participation awards. And my kids, growing up, they did different competitions and things, and there were times and places where they gave them participation awards. And you know what I told my kids? We made fun of it. I told them that was lame. I didn't make them think it was something to be proud of or something that they would want to display. You know why? Because I didn't want to teach my kids that you get a reward for losing, for being pathetic. I was like, well, these kids, they don't need the pressure of trying to succeed and all that. They need to learn at a young age. You got to work hard. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to compete. You've got to be better than the next person if you want to get to these vain pursuits that people are going after. That's what you're going to have to do. And the millennial generation, they do. The participation trophy generation, they can't handle competition, and they do. They want vacations, and they want to be able, not only do they want to be able to get off work, but they want to be able to afford to go on a nice vacation somewhere. Well, I'm sorry, you can't afford it. You're too worthless, and you need to figure out a way to just find that job and stop demanding society hand it to you. And this generation, I mean, boy, if we ever go back to a war where there's hand-to-hand combat, we're in trouble, because we've got a whole generation, they're scared of guns, they're scared of confrontation. I mean, they just back down at everything. And the Bible is very harsh. Well, I don't even want to say harsh. Harsh implies it's going over the top, okay? Let me say it this way. The Bible seems harsh to our pathetic, passive generation that we live in. All right, let me say it that way, because the Bible's right. And in Deuteronomy chapter 21:18, it says, if a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him will not hearken unto them, then shall his father and mother lay hold on him and bring him out into the elders of the city, into the gate of the place. And they shall say unto the elders of the city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. So we have a good for nothing, stuff in his face, a drunkard, too lazy, won't go out and get a job, just wants to mooch off mommy and daddy, and they can't get him to work. They can't get him to do what he's supposed to do. This isn't a little kid like the atheists try to say. And it says, and all the men of the city shall stone him with stones, that he die, so shalt thou put evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. And I think that was their way of making sure they never got a welfare class. Is let's just deal with this, because it's evil. And new IFB wives, what are you doing on here? You are so worthless. Go bother a new IFB channel. We're not new IFB. get out of town. But anyway, so, people say, oh, this is terrible. But you know what? One of the things that these articles were all talking about was all the suicide rates. And, it's amazing how, many people today, they cannot handle any stress. They can't handle getting yelled at by a boss. It's really pathetic. Oh, man, another weirdo. But anyway, I'm getting distracted by the live chat and the trolls that are on there. But the Bible says in 2 Thessalonians 3:10, for even when we are with you, this we command you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. And this here is among the church. And it's amazing how many people even will come into churches and will expect to just, enjoy all the things in the church, the air conditioning. They'll be the first ones complaining if the air conditioning is not working right. They'll be the first ones complaining if the food's not that good, if the chairs aren't that comfortable, if something's not exactly right. And then, they're also the ones who do not contribute anything. They don't give. They don't help. They're not actively involved. They're not helping in the ministries. They're not out soul winning. They're not doing any of those things. And it's just a simple fact that the biggest whiners and complainers in churches are the people who do the least. Go talk to any pastor and they will agree. The biggest trouble in the church are the people who do the least. What is it? It's that welfare mentality. And you know what? They shouldn't even be eating with us if they're not even working. You didn't contribute anything. You didn't do anything. So, what is what makes you think you have right to anything? And, we've got to get back to that mentality. And there are people that are like that too, and who they feel bad partaking in something if they haven't contributed anything. That is a good mentality. Because you should feel bad when people are, and obviously it's not wrong to take a gift and things like that. But, when you just have this expectation, when you just are expecting these things and then you act entitled, you're just a really sorry person. And that is our generation, that they feel entitled even though they've not put any work into anything. The Bible also says in Proverbs 6, go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? Well, I need extra sleep for my mental health. When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? When my therapist says it's okay. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come, as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. Well, how many new IFB accounts do you have? We got wives, morons, bozos, and don't get me wrong, this is new IFB hater, but go spread your hate somewhere else. We don't like you. But anyway, poverty comes when you're lazy and pathetic. That's the way it should be. But you know what? We live in a country today where they want those people to all vote for them. So, if you're lazy, sleeping, good for nothing, not doing any work, we'll cut you a check. We'll give you food stamps. We'll do all these things for it. That's not right. That's not how these things should go. And here's the thing too, we want to help these people's mental health. Well, you know what? You do not help anyone's mental health by giving them something they didn't work for. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:4, the soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. His soul will be made fat. What does that mean? It means he's fulfilled. He's full. Right? Where that sluggard, he's always desiring. He's always longing for something. The lazy person always wants more, but the diligent, they're satisfied with what they have. And you know what? In our country today, we're trying to make people's souls fat by just medicating them up, thinking that'll make them feel better. And that's not going to do anything either. That's just going to come with side effects, and that's not the way it works. You need to get out there, you need to work hard, and you need to accomplish something. The desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor. And that's why I think these people a lot of times kill themselves. They are so they're just so ate up with want, desire, but you know what? They were meant to be working, and it is a very satisfying, it is a very therapeutic thing to go out and to work with your hands and accomplish something. And I'm just going to tell you right now, and I've talked about this before, but my job as a pastor is not a super physical job. And so, this is something that I can do, but one of my favorite things to do on my day off is yard work, is to get out there and to do something with my hands. It's a very fulfilling thing. But you know what? Lazy people, I'm looking for a reason to get outside and to get dirty and do all that stuff. Where lazy people, they're always just making excuses. Proverbs 20 verse 4, the sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing. So, it's too cold out. It's too hot out. I got this problem. I got that problem. There's always something that's stopping them from doing what they need to do. And you know what? You just need to get your backside out there, and you need to accomplish something. That's how you're going to find satisfaction. Hang on, I lost my notes here. And the Bible says in Proverbs 22:13, the slothful man saith, there is a lion without. I shall be slain in the streets. What's he doing? Making excuses. Acting like there's a reason. I'm going to get killed if I go out there. Now, we don't say that in Illinois because we don't have lions out here. But, we say I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm going to have anxiety. I'm going to have depression. I'm going to have suicidal thoughts. And so it's probably going to kill me if I go to work. So now I got to stay at home and I need to play my Xbox. But now I need the government to give me some money because I don't have enough money for internet so I can stream my game, all that kinds of folks, this is just pathetic. The Bible says in Proverbs 12:24, the hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be put under tribute. Those who are working hard, they're going to be the boss. Lazy people, you're going to be the one, under tribute, working for other people. Lazy people are wasteful. The slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of the diligent man is precious. And they're just wasteful. They kill something, but they don't do anything with it. They just let it go to waste. But a diligent person, they understand, hey, this is precious. This is valuable. We want to make sure that we use it properly because we don't want to just assume these things are always going to be around. And unfortunately, that's the mentality of people today. It says, he that is slothful in work is brother to him that is a great waster. That's Proverbs 18:9. This is a big one, too, that we're seeing. This is a real bad one today. But Proverbs 19:24 says, a slothful man hideth his hand in his bosom and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. What I believe that's talking about is he's basically just acting like he can't even feed himself. He's faking a disability so somebody else will feed him. And we've got that in our country today, where people that are so lazy, they're so pathetic, that they will fake a disability, claim some kind of disability so they can get welfare. Not because they need it, because they just don't want to work. And, and you do. If you're like that, you're not going to have good mental health. You're not going to sleep well. Sleep is very important. But Proverbs 26:14 says, as the door turneth upon his hinges. It's like they're rolling back and forth. So doth the slothful upon his bed. You know what? When you never sleep better than you do after a good, hard day's work. There's just a satisfying feeling when you've worked hard. And you know what? You're good and tired. But when you've had a long day of just playing video games and watching television, you're probably not going to sleep very well that night. And you're probably going to be laying there stressed out because you're still going to have problems. You're still going to have financial difficulties that are going to be out there tomorrow. And you did nothing to help those things. So, this generation that we have today that's just always begging for more, begging for the government to help. They don't even understand what they are doing is actually going to destroy them physically, and it's actually going to destroy their mental health. And they love talking about mental health and how important that is. but it's always just demanding more vacations, demanding more money. You provide this for me, but no, you've got to go and do these things, but you've got to make sure you're not getting sidetracked with just vain pursuits. That if you are going to get those things of vanity, you're going to have to be competitive. So you're going to have to keep up with the Smiths and the Joneses and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to have to do that 40 plus hour work week and that you don't want to do. That's just going to be, that's going to have to be a part of your life if that's what you want. And the truth is, if you were looking to be lazy, if you were looking to just be satisfied with food, raiment, and shelter, welcome to America. You can have that real easy in this country. I mean, real easy. Yes, you still might have to have some responsibilities, but you know what? Healthy people thrive on those things. Most people do, but for somehow we manage to raise a generation that cannot handle any responsibility. They can't handle getting yelled at by a boss. Maybe it's because their school teacher wasn't allowed to yell at them. Their school teacher wasn't allowed to discipline them. You know, I mean, let me ask you this. What's worse? You know, getting spanked that the pain's going to go away, or getting fired from your job? That's so much worse. But yet today, people, you know, they don't know what to do because they go into the real world and where there is competition, and then they get fired and they don't know how to handle it. They've never dealt with any kind of punishment before. And, you know, and so you go from not doing the small, easy stuff like spanking that's no big deal to now they're getting fired from their job, they're getting arrested, they're going to jail, they have a criminal record that really makes things difficult. And so we're really hurting things. So, you know, that's enough kind of about the lazy. But what I do want to do is I do want to just put a challenge out there for those of you who, you know, are not lazy, those of you who do have jobs. One thing that I'm seeing even amongst Christian people who are employed and things like that, is there is a growing attitude of entitlement, you know, where people are expecting an awful lot for very little, where people are expecting these big things that most people have to sacrifice to get. And they look at it as a necessity. And you really need to get over that because and you need to understand that if you want to have those extras, if you want to keep up with these different groups, you're going to have to be diligent. And too many people are just doing the bare minimum with everything. You know, they have to be, you know, they always have to have somebody standing over their shoulder telling them what to do. You know, that's not good. That's not what, you know, bosses that actually pay good money are looking for. They're looking for people that are go-getters. They're looking for that aunt who doesn't have a guide, overseer, or ruler. They just instinctively, they know what to do. And it's I've worked with people where, you know, you have to tell them every little thing to do. And then they do the bare minimum. And then you got to crack the whip. That's not how things are supposed to be. You need to be diligent. You do need to work hard and understand. And you've got to lose this attitude of entitlement. And you need to actually go out and earn something. And here's the thing: when you earn it like you're supposed to, you'll actually enjoy it more. You'll actually have a greater care and appreciation for what you have. And but you know what? One of the things that we see, and proof of this, okay, and I go to different places all the time, and I see this, where you go to the most welfare places where they get the most welfare. You know what you see? The most trash places. You see garbage on the street everywhere. That's where most waste is, in these welfare areas. Why is that? Because you know what? You have a character problem, is what you have. And I want to read this one comment. It says, what do you do when you do work hard at your job, but your boss still gives you a hard time and is unfair? Can a boss sometimes just be a Laban and be unreasonable, even when you try your best? Now, I'm not going to tell you that this kind of thing doesn't happen, but, you know, one thing that the last generation never learned either is, you know what? Life's not fair. Sometimes they don't treat you the best. And if your boss is really that bad and you're really that great, then you should be able to find another job or a better job. But a lot of times that's just how people feel because, their boss yelled at them, and, nobody thinks, they're guilty. I mean, how many lazy people on the workforce actually say that they're lazy? Nobody thinks they're lazy. And I don't know you at all. I'm not saying you're lazy and that you do a good job, but you know what? Maybe you do a sorry job. Maybe you have this bare minimum mentality and your boss is wanting more out of you. And so he's getting on you and you just think it's unfair. If it's so bad there, sometimes you need to go find another job. And I've worked places before that, I didn't feel they treated their workers good. And you know what? I would go find a different job and I was able to because I was worth it. And the truth is, if you're worth it, somebody will pay you what you're worth. The problem is we have an inflated idea of what our worth is. And people think because I went to college and I got this degree, I should be making six figures. Not necessarily. I mean, who told you that? Well, the college, because they're trying to get your tuition money. But is that reality? And I used to work at the Walmart distribution center. When I got the job there, you had to do this physical test, where you had to do sit-ups. You had to do a thing where you stacked a bunch of crates and all this to make sure you could physically handle the job. From what I understand, they quit doing that. And and the thing is, their turnover rate is horrible now. I mean, it's gotten really bad, and a lot of they're having such a hard time finding workers. They're kind of lowering the standards to get workers in. But and a lot of that is just a sign of how pathetic the laborers are in this area. It's a really bad sign. But the truth is, if you work hard, if you're not worthless, you're not going to have a problem getting a job. And everybody thinks they're a victim today, and everybody wants to claim that they're a victim. And if you work a job where you're treated unfair, you can't act like a victim, because if you are worth what you think you're worth, there's something better out there that you will be able to get. But what society wants to tell you is, no, it's not fair and it's not your fault. And you know what the solution is? The government. Regulation. That's always, for everything, that's a solution. And you know what? You can go find articles online talking about how they treat workers and that, all those things I was reading. We're not giving them enough vacations. We're not giving people enough time off. We don't have enough family leave. We don't have, we need more of all this. Listen, if you're worth it, you can get it. But the truth is, you're not. It's competition out there. And you're not entitled to any of these things. You're not entitled to vacation. You're not entitled to anything. And people have got to get back to an attitude of, I need to earn what I get. And I promise it will make you happier. We all think we want that job just, doing nothing and getting paid good. It doesn't make you happy. And it doesn't. And there's a lot of people on meds and therapy and for all these different things that prove it. Everybody wants to be a game streamer, making money that way. I forgot what they call that exactly. Everybody wants to have a YouTube channel and make a fortune doing that. There's only a select few that's actually going to really be successful, and that most of you aren't going to make it. You just need to go out and get a real job. Most of us are not those exceptional people that are out there, and we just need to work hard. And you know what? Thankfully, that was the one thing that my dad taught me. I've never had a lot of money. I've never been what anyone would consider successful financially speaking. But I was taught two things. I was taught you pay your bills on time. And so I've always done that. And so not to get behind and get in the hole and all that kind of stuff. And then work hard. I was taught that from a young age. And so you know what? I've survived. I've got a wife and 8 kids and a lot. I've been able to do a lot of things. and I've never had a bank account that too many people would envy, but I've been able to get it done. So, but yeah, I hope that was a help to you. And there are bad bosses out there, but always, just understand you're gonna get what you're worth, and so work hard, do what you need to do, stick it out. Don't be jumping from job to job. That's not a good thing too. People need to learn some consistency on these things. But anyway, always appreciate what you have. When you do have a job, if somebody's paying you to do something, be thankful for it, appreciate it, and be diligent. Do a good job. And because you might want to get a job somewhere else one of these days, and you might need them for a reference. And understand their testimony of you could determine whether or not you get that really good job. So the thing is, you might be working for me and, doesn't pay that great, doesn't have the greatest benefits and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If you work for me like it does, one of these days, if another opportunity does come where you could have all that, then you might get, I might give that opinion to that person. Yeah, they're definitely worth it. You will not be disappointed if you hire them. And so because you treated me, like you would have someone who, paid more, and that's the thing. You need to, Bible says, whatsoever you do heartily, or do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto men. We should always work like God is the boss and not just man. And if we would do that, and that's what I think everybody needs. I think that's what you need to do, Outlaw. You need to just act like your job is, God is your boss. And let me tell you, when I was at the distribution center, that was my attitude, because I'm like, I'm a pastor. I'm the pastor of Liberty Baptist Church. And, for a long time, our church wasn't able to pay me full time, but that was my focus. My focus was on my calling, pastoring the church, the will of God. Walmart was a tool that I had to have in order to pay my bills and fulfill my responsibilities, as a husband and as a father, and I did those things. But you know what? I never looked to Walmart. I never looked to my bosses necessarily for fulfillment and meeting my goals. I always just knew, what, God's watching, and I wanted God to see me working hard. God knew I would rather be, doing the ministry than working in that freezer. God knew that's what I wanted. And I always knew if I kept that my priority, the things of God, then eventually what's going to happen is that job is going to get in the way of what I could be doing for the Lord. And if the Lord thinks I'm worth it, He'll do what needs to be done. He'll provide so He can get me out of there and over here where I need to be. And that's exactly what happened. And I think everyone needs to have that attitude. And you know what? Stop being a sorry worker. Stop doing the bare minimum. Stop being lazy. You need to act like Jesus Christ is your foreman. He is your manager. He is your boss. And let me tell you something. If you do, and you do have a boss that's treating you unfair, God's going to see that. And He's like, hey, this guy, he's not working for that jerk. He's working for me. And you know what? God might remove that guy. And let me tell you, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but, I'm just going to tell you right now, I do feel like I have successfully prayed away a lot of managers in my life. And the Lord's been good to me there, where whenever I've had managers that were a problem, God would get rid of them. And I remember a few years before I quit, there was I had went part-time at the distribution center, but it was nice because I was scheduled to work less than I needed to. I wasn't getting paid that much from the church, and so I needed a little more than just the 2 days that I was scheduled to work. And the managers were letting me come in pretty much when I wanted. So I was able to work the 2 days that I was scheduled, I had to do that every week. But then the other days, it was just kind of up to me. And so I did that for months. And then we got a new, our GM one day decided he didn't like that. He didn't like that I was doing that and put a stop to it. And I talked to him. He didn't give me any good reasons or anything. And I think it was totally unfair the way he handled it. And he was kind of a jerk about it. And it ticked me off. And I did. I prayed. I asked prayer in church, that we get rid of him. And you know what? It wasn't long after that. He got transferred out, got a new GM in, and nobody ever said anything about it again. It was fantastic. And you know what? So that's my attitude. And it's not always been that way. I can't sit here today and tell you that my foreman, my manager, my boss has always been God. Sometimes it's been people. They were the ones I was focused on. And but whenever I have made God my foreman, things have gone much better at my job. And so I'm going to close with that because I think that's a really good piece of advice. Today, when you go to work and you are given a project, pretend Jesus Christ walked up to you and handed you that work assignment, and then go do that job like you're trying to impress him, because he will see what you're doing and he will make sure that you are recompensed the way you should be. And I believe that with all my heart. And you know what? Jesus isn't impressed with a lazy bum. We see what he thinks about him all over in his word. And so get out there and work like he's the boss standing over your shoulder. And I think it'll be a game changer for you. So with that, I appreciate you joining me. I hope to see you all next week. God bless.